All right, everyone. I guess we're going to get started here. And yeah, so if you can see my screen, we're just going to be going through some slides today, but I'll do a quick introduction and then we'll hop right into it. So today we're going to be talking about DevLess and the feature that surrounds that, are being able to capture different components inside your application and how that's going to fuel automation inside of ChurnZero and your customer success process. So let's hop right in. Before we get started, though, I'm going to give myself a quick introduction. My name is Nick Lewandowski. I'm one of the sales engineers here at ChurnZero. And if you guys have any further questions after the webinar, feel free to reach out to me. I can help get you on the right track. And if you have any other questions about the platform, just let me know and we'll help get you through those. But today we're going to be talking about what is DevLess and how do you enable it? So how do we actually use the feature that's going to be able to do all of these components that are actually without coding or web development expertise. So we'll be going into how to set up event maps or usage events and how we can actually consume those and use those in ChurnZero, as well as tagging pages, in-app walkthroughs, and then how do we actually make all of these things actionable and get value out of them, so time to value. So what is DevLess? DevLess is a ChurnZero feature that allows us to add the usage events, the page tags, as well as the in-app walkthroughs. And some of the pictures here on the left are going to be the DevLess UI on the bottom right, the walkthrough on the bottom left, as well as usage events that we're able to capture by using the DevLess feature. And this DevLess window would actually show up inside your web app so you can help set up some of these elements. But how do you enable it? Well, we use JavaScript to be able to enable this inside your web application. So you would simply add a JavaScript snippet to something like a header in one of your web pages. So we do this, and now we can actually read the information, such as the user that is actually performing actions inside of your web application. We would then go into ChurnZero, and you would click the drop-down menu and open a Start DevLess session. And you would actually do that and be able to see the little UI pop up on the bottom of the screen. Once we click on the wrench inside the success panel here. So once we've done that, we've now fully enabled DevLess to be able to utilize all the features there within. Now, of the features that I've mentioned with DevLess, we are going to be going through usage events, page tagging, and walkthroughs. If you wouldn't mind just answering the poll below and be able to let us know what feature you guys are actually most interested in. And I'll let you guys take a couple moments there to answer the poll. Okay, well, it looks like we've got quite a few answers. Looks like it's pretty split down the middle. So we're looking at 50% usage events and 50% walkthroughs. Okay, great. So we'll make sure to touch on those a little bit more thoroughly. So we'll first talk about usage events and how do we set these up. Once we've clicked on create a new event map or create a new usage event that we want to track, we're simply going to get this purple box that's going to show up over a field, or we can hover over buttons. Basically, we're just hovering over web elements, and we're trying to select the thing that we want to trigger the usage event. So for this example, we actually have our dummy marketing pony app here that has an email credits function, and this email credits function has a couple of different fields associated with it, and we'd want to actually capture all of these components to make sure that we're getting a complete usage event, as well as filled in with the user information. So on the next slide here, we can actually see the settings window. And with the settings window here, we are giving the event a name, and we're actually able to use these little blue wands to be able to actually click on and get the purple box again to be able to actually fill out the description as well as the quantity. So if we just go back for a second, we actually see the quantity field here and email credits. We'd actually be able to capture that as well. So once they click increment, they would actually be able to, then you guys would actually be able to capture this as a usage event in ChurnZero. And we just simply enable this, and we're now going to actually start being able to track this as a usage event. So we go from seeing the previous usage events that we only had here. For example, we only had login posted to Twitter, email sent, and blog published. We have those somewhat populating. People are doing those things inside your web application. But now we've also now actually added email credits. So now we can start tracking that for your users inside the application, as well as at company level. And this would then fuel all of the analysis that we're doing in ChurnZero, run playbooks off of, and be able to do intelligent decision-making to be able to actually reach out to those audience members that are actually using these tools or not using these features. For example, if you wanted to reach out to somebody that you think might see some great value in using a feature, but they're not using it today. So we can use the usage data there to be able to fuel those decisions. And then this is the same idea with page tags, so I won't spend too much time on it, but essentially we can actually create a page tag. So if somebody visits a dashboard, we can see how much time they're spending on that dashboard, and then actually be able to determine whether they're leveraging the feature effectively, or if we think that they need to be using it more to be able to help their business and be able to accelerate their adoption of certain elements of your product. But let's get into some in-app walkthroughs. Now, in-app walkthroughs are an extremely powerful tool that I'm sure a lot of people are well aware of, but we can actually do this with the DevLess UI. So we don't need to do any sort of special coding or web development to make these appear in your UI. We can actually target different people through a lot of the functionality that we have in ChurnZero today. So what you're seeing is actually the settings screen for the walkthroughs. And we can see all of the basic information. What's the name of the type of walkthrough that we're going to run a specific person through or a specific group of people. We can see what page it's going to activate on. So we do this through a page tag, as well as being able to determine how it's triggered just by visiting a page, or will they be clicking on something to make it pop up, or some other variation of that. And then we can also determine the audience, which I'll touch on a little bit later on, but that would be folks that are either in a specific account or specific types of contacts. For example, admin users, power users, or maybe C-level users or something like that. However you segment out your users of your product, we can do that as well. And of course, we can set the start and end dates for this walkthrough. So maybe it's no longer relevant once a new product release comes out, then we can end that walkthrough, as well as show it every time or show it the first time they come to that page. We don't want to keep on assaulting them with this walkthrough every single time they come to a page. So we want to be aware of that. And then we can also determine when it expires. Now, the next thing you'd want to be able to do is, of course, be able to customize it. So we'd want to make sure that it looks a certain way. It matches features in our application, matches the style, the font, as well as have any images that you would like to add. So quite simply, we can edit all of that in an HTML-like editor here and be able to produce a walkthrough that's very customized to what you're trying to do. You can make it look very similar to your web application, or you can make it stick out like a purple or a green or something like that. That gives a lot of contrast so they can't miss it. And then of course, you can see all of these steps that build up to creating this entire walkthrough. For example, on that first slide I showed you guys, we saw the welcome pop-up, but that's not the only component of a walkthrough. We want to make sure that we actually have all of the individual steps mapped out perfectly. So when somebody goes through the walkthrough, they feel like they're actually getting the right user experience. You can also guide them to specific features as a result of that, and they will actually now adopt that. So this is great for something where you're trying to target an audience that is maybe not using something that you would like to see them use more, that would make your product more sticky, as well as make them feel like your product is doing exactly what you told them it could do. So how do we get value out of the walkthroughs? Well, we get value primarily through being able to segment out the users or the audience that we're trying to address. So we do this in ChurnZero by creating a segment, which if you're not familiar with ChurnZero today, essentially what that looks like is we're filtering out different things based on usage data, attributes in the accounts or the contacts, and then actually creating a smart list of sorts that is going to then power the audience that we can address the walkthroughs to. So from there, we're actually able to determine that users that are maybe not using this email credits feature that I showed you as an example could be addressed specifically as a segment that would then receive the walkthrough that would show them how to use the email credits. And then in combination with the usage events, once we've captured that they've now used that feature, we can actually take those usage events and then make other smart calculated decisions around automated playbooks to be able to actually address their problems. So as far as in-app walkthroughs go, this is going to be the primary way that we see our customers use it today. One question that we definitely receive a lot, and this is something I actually see in the questions now, is how do we set up these segments? Well, simply put, we would just go into ChurnZero here, and we would actually just go in and create the filters, and those things will then populate in the list in the DevLess UI. So there's no importing of segments or anything like that. It's a very seamless experience that's going to work together to be able to make it so you can address the right audience. Now, some of the really big takeaways that we have from this, and we can go deeper into DevLess if you guys would like, but if you want to reach out to me afterwards. But essentially what we're trying to show is that it's very easy to use. It's a simple UI interface that allows you to add multiple things in one place that is then going to immediately pop up in ChurnZero, populate usage data, populate walkthroughs that are actually actionable, and so on and so forth. So no web development expertise is required, as well as a shortened time to value, so we can capture all those usage events and be able to deliver the walkthroughs very quickly, as well as keeping the audience engaged. I think this is primarily the problem that a lot of us come across, is making sure that something that they actually purchased is something that they're actually going to use and see value from. They're not going to question you later on down the line as to why am I paying for this feature if I'm not even using it. And without further ado, we have Q&A. So if you guys have any questions that you want to put down below, love to answer your questions and be able to see if this is right for you and if something you could implement in your organization. Okay, so I see a question about adding GIFs or various images to the walkthroughs. Yes, we can do that. So we can add GIFs, static images, and like I'd mentioned before, it's an HTML-like editor, so we can change the font, the background, all the color scheme, everything around that to make it look very customized and match the theme that you have inside your web app. And usage events, I see a question about usage events. So when we're talking about usage events and how they populate quickly, we're talking about when we create that usage event and enable it, we're able to actually get that in there into ChurnZero immediately. So once it's enabled, we're starting to track that, and we can start seeing that across our accounts and contacts. Are walkthroughs available on mobile or web app only? So it would depend. We'd have to know a little bit more about your web application, but we can definitely talk through that. If that's a question I could reach out to you afterwards about and just kind of learn a little bit more about how your web app or your application works, and we can see how we can do that for you today. As there's tends to be some differences between application to application. We want to make sure we're supporting it on the right platforms. No problem. Any other questions? All right. Well, I appreciate everybody attending today. Like I said before, if you've got any other questions that you would like to ask, you can email me directly. My email address is there below. And feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn and connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can help to point you in the right direction as to where ChurnZero might be able to help you with your customer success team and make you guys retain more customers as well as help them adopt new features. But I appreciate it very much, and I hope you guys have a great day.